Welcome back to Sports Radio 95.9 The Fan. And joining me right now on the Club 52 hotline to talk a little Buccaneers football and Gators, because I know this man loves his Florida Gators. His name is Chris Fisher with Bucs Brief Podcast. Chris, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, Mark. How are you doing?
Hey, I appreciate it. And you know what? We'll just start with it since everyone's talking about it nonstop. I know you went to University of Florida. I know that's your team, man. Do you like the hire of this guy from Colorado State?
Like is an understatement. I absolutely love the hire. I think he absolutely fits the mold of what Jeremy Foley was looking for. This guy's got a great offensive mind. He's got SEC coaching experience, the 2 national championships with Alabama, known to be a good recruiter, known to get along very well with his assistants. I'm very excited for this hire. I think it's going to bring a lot of good things for the University of Florida moving forward.
You look back at that game last Saturday against Florida State where they're just going for field goals and then they're missing field goals. Wasn't that the last straw where you're like, all right, we need an offensive mind to help the Florida Gators?
Yeah, it's completely consistent with what we've seen, unfortunately, over the last couple of years, where you don't have a dominant quarterback and your offense just can't put points on the board. But, I mean, how much more can your defense do to shut down one of the top-rated quarterbacks in college football, get four interceptions, and you still can't win the football game? So, yeah, I mean, it pretty much sums up the problems that Coach Will Muschamp had at Florida. Just could not put together a successful offense, and that ultimately is what cost him his job.
You look at next year. I know we can't get there fast enough. 2015, Labor Day. What are your expectations with Florida and this new head football coach, Jim McElwain, as the new guy? Do you want 10 wins? I mean, what are your expectations?
I mean, I think Gator fans' expectations is that you've got to come into the University of Florida and win 10 games a year. It seems like our fan base is no longer happy unless you're getting to the SEC championship every year. So I think there's definitely going to be some high expectations. Obviously, when you're a first-year coach coming in, there's going to be some transition, so you've got to get that recruiting class finalized. I know they've got some good kids supposedly coming in. So, I don't know what to expect at this point. I think 8 to 9 wins, you definitely want to win more than you won this season. I think it's very important that he retains some of this defensive coaching staff like Durkin and Robinson in the secondary. I think those guys are key, especially in developing relationships with these recruits. If his defense can just be consistent and you've got some improvement on the offensive side of the ball, we'll see what they do at quarterback. If they turn the ball over to Will Greer, who kind of fits what I think a little bit more of the mold of what McElwain likes in a quarterback. If the offense just improves a little bit, I think we could see some very good things and potentially challenging for the SEC championship next year.
All right, you got me hyped now. You know that,
Absolutely.
Right? I got it. I'm ready. It's too bad. Let's see. We got Christmas, New Year's, let's see, Cinco de Mayo, Labor. We got a bunch of holidays before we can get to the new season.
Yeah, but you got spring football in there, too.
That's
so
true.
That kind of helps. It adds to it. Gets you excited for the upcoming year,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, let's talk about your team, the number one team you cover, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it's just more heartache. Is it every week they're finding new ways to rip your heart out? I mean, what's going on?
My goodness. It really seems week after week, and it's finding a new way to lose a football game, and you think that they would have really run out of different ways to lose football games, but obviously you see what happens this week. You get a 12 men on the field penalty, which is completely unnecessary when you're set up in field goal range to win a football game, and just completely blow it at the end of the game. It's very consistent. I mean, you're a 2-10 football team. This is not a good football team, and unfortunately they're losing a lot of these games that they should be winning. It's quite disappointing, especially when you had Cincinnati, who was a 7 wins coming into that game. You've got them on the ropes. You get your defense gets 3 takeaways, and you can't win the football game. You lose it by 1 point. And really, what this game boiled down to, Mark, was penalties, and specifically on the offensive line, where they were just completely undisciplined again. 10 penalties alone were called on this offense, and you're not going to win many football games when you have double-digit penalties. It's just not going to happen.
We're here with Chris Fisher. Bucs Brief is his podcast. It's a great one if you love the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the NFC South. And you know what's interesting? Look, I grew up a Bears fan. I know about Lovie Smith, and when they made this hire, my comment was, look, win or lose, with Lovie Smith, you're going to be in every single ball game. Can't you make a case what you've seen so far? I know you're 2-10, like you said, but once you give it some time, you get some better players in there, this can be a good football franchise with Lovie Smith?
It absolutely can be, and I think fans just need to be a little bit more patient with things. I know there was a lot of excitement with Lovie Smith coming in. Thought immediately that defense would turn around, maybe a top 5 defense this year. We are starting to see some improvement on the defensive side of the ball. You look at since the bye week, this defense is playing very well, and they're missing a key component of their defense right now. The last 2 games, and All-Pro Levante David, and you've had guys like Ori Lemon, who was undrafted, guys like Danny Lansana, who was undrafted, who are coming in and stepping up and playing very well on the defensive side of the ball. You need a little bit more on the offense. Obviously, the biggest issue on this team right now is the offensive line. They're absolutely killing this football team. If you can solidify that, absolutely, folks need to be patient. Lovie Smith's going to get this ship turned around, and it's going to move in the right direction.
I'm not going to lie to you, man. I like Mike Evans on the offense, maybe Vincent Jackson, and then that's about it. I want
pretty much it.
Yeah, what about you?
There's not really much else from an offensive target standpoint. You look at this team just does not run the ball. I mean, Doug Martin looked like the Doug Martin of old last week in the first half, 12 rushes for 55 yards and a touchdown. He had a 28-yard run that was wiped out. So you look at he's almost hitting 100 yards in the first half, and then they don't rush the ball. It's been a trend over the last few weeks. They just don't try and run the ball in the second half. I just don't understand it. But from an offensive weapon standpoint, you're absolutely right. You have Mike Evans, who's had a huge year, leads the team in yardage, touchdowns. And then you got Vincent Jackson, and really from there, there's a huge drop-off. So there's definitely some skill positions that are definitely still needed on this football team. The tight ends have had a very disappointing year. We haven't seen much from Austin Seferian-Jenkins, a very hyped draft pick coming into this year. Has been hurt a lot, so that's been a disappointment so far. So there's really not a lot to look at from an overall skill position standpoint on this team.
We're here with Chris Fisher. Bucs Brief is the podcast and website. You got to check it out. They do a great job. On Twitter, is it Bucs Brief as well?
Absolutely, at Bucs Brief on Twitter.
I like you keep it simple. Does this team hate Mike Glennon? I have to ask you this question. Do they just hate him? I mean, why is this guy not playing?
I think the coaching staff, I think the decision has actually already been made, Mark, and I'm pretty sure you're going to see this moving forward. One of the 2 quarterbacks, either Josh McCown or Mike Glennon, will not be on this football team next season. And the fact that you're seeing Josh McCown week after week, in the last 2 games he's definitely struggled, it shows me that this coaching staff feels that Josh McCown still gives them the best opportunity to win a football game. And maybe just that's the fact that this offensive line has been so horrible. Josh McCown is a little bit more mobile than Mike Glennon, and maybe they just feel that if they stuck Mike Glennon in there, he would absolutely get killed and get hurt with this offensive line and how they have not protected the quarterback this year. So I think moving forward, I do think they are going to try and move on from Mike Glennon, try to see what they can get for him prior to the draft, see if they can get a draft pick for him, and then maybe draft a kid in the NFL draft and have Josh McCown serve as that backup or maybe start the year, but have him more as that veteran presence versus moving forward with Mike Glennon. I
think they need a top 5 pick, and they need to hit a home run. And if that's Mariota, if that's Winston, I just feel like they got to sell tickets as well. I think something's missing here. They need some type of swagger and image. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, and you look at the ticket sales, and it was the lowest attendance since they've had in a year. I think November of 2013 is a game against Atlanta, so that the folks are starting to not come to the football games. Overall fans want a splash draft pick. They want that Marcus Mariota. They want that Jameis Winston pick. Ultimately, in my opinion, I think this team has to get the best fit for them, and if that's an offensive tackle, so be it. This offensive line has been horrible, but yeah, if you're looking at just ticket sales and stuff, there is a lot of hype right now behind those 2 quarterbacks. A quarterback is a definite need for this Bucs franchise. The thing is, though, when you take that guy in the top 5 and you take a quarterback, he has to work out, because if he doesn't work out, then you're setting your franchise back for more years. So you've got to do your due diligence and make sure you're getting the guy who's going to be a successful quarterback for you. But yeah, absolutely, folks really want a quarterback, and I'm hearing it nonstop that that's what they want this team to do. You know what's interesting about that comment is I agree with you, but when you look at the team, when's the last time they made the playoffs? You can't send them back, and you're 2-10 right now. I say just go for it. What do you have to lose? Yeah, you ultimately may have to, and it's interesting. Right now they sit with that number 2 pick, so really if you look at it, they're guaranteed. If they want either Winston or Mariota, they can go and get either one of those guys. It's guaranteed right now, sitting with that number 2 pick. It's a big risk, and you look at some of the quarterbacks that have been taken in the top 5 over years. Yeah, you've got guys like Andrew Luck, but you also have guys like Mark Sanchez, some of these other guys who really haven't worked out, and there's been a lot of busts over the last 10 years, really, since 2000. I think Eli Manning is the only quarterback who has won a Super Bowl who was drafted in the top 5. So, yes, it's a big risk. You're right, though. I mean, they might have to just pull the gun and figure out what they need to do and get that quarterback that's going to excite the fan base and get this team moving in the right direction.
You know what I like? I think you were about to say RG3, and then you're not sure. You're like, maybe he goes to the Bucs. I don't know. You're not done with RG3, huh?
You know, it's interesting to see with him because I do think he can be a successful quarterback. I just don't know if he's got to be in the right system, and I don't know if coming to Tampa Bay, and obviously we don't know with offensive coordinator what's going to happen there next year. If you pull a guy maybe who's got some ties with Chip Kelly, maybe RG3 would make some sense. I don't know what the asking price is going to be for him. I'm sure they're going to try and get as much as they can, but I wouldn't want to give up a high draft pick, especially with the amount of holes that this team has. They really need as many draft picks as they possibly can. RG3, I think, could be a successful NFL quarterback, but it's got to be in the right system. And with the giant question mark we have right now with what type of offense we're going to see from the Bucs next season, I don't know if he would be the right fit in Tampa Bay.
All right, let's play this game. We're here with Chris Fisher. Bucs Brief is the podcast. All right, you're at the Lions, at Panthers, Packers at home, Saints at home. How many more wins has this team got?
They got one more. I think they'll go into Carolina, and I think they'll win that game. You look at a team who's actually struggling worse than Tampa right now, and that's Carolina. They actually have the second highest losing streak in the NFL, only behind those lowly Giants who lost to the Jaguars this weekend. They are a team that is desperately struggling, and their fans are calling for their head coach to be let go. So I do think that's the only win. It's unfortunate because I'd love to see this team win a football game at home. They haven't done so since December 8th of 2013, won a regular season football game. Those Packers are tough. I think they're going to play them tight. The Saints could potentially be playing for that NFC South championship game. I really think it's the only option right now. What I see is the most likely win to me, Mark, would be the Carolina game.
All right, let's end with this then. All right, here's what we're going to end with. Because women make fun of me when I say this, but the NFL draft's going to be in Chicago. It won't be in New York. And tickets will be available. If I called you up and said, hey, you and me are going. I got tickets. We're going to fly to Chicago. We'll stay at my sister's house. We're going to go cover the draft. Are you in? Because I'm
Absolutely.
in. Oh, yeah. That's a awesome vacation, right?
Oh, I've never been to Chicago. I mean, Mark, I would be all over that. I've always wanted to see that city. So heck yeah, I'd love that. Yeah, I think it's good for them to take it on the road, really take it to another city. Not that the NFL draft is not exciting, but really giving fans the opportunity in another city in America to go and witness and see the draft. And maybe we won't have all the folks in the crowd who just boo everything that the Jets do or boo everything that the Eagles do because you get out of that New York crowd. So I would jump at that opportunity.
You don't understand. There's going to be new booing that Roger Goodell's not sure of. The Green Bay Packers are going to be booed nonstop the whole time they're on the clock. The whole time. Oh, man. It's going to be awesome. Hopefully, quarterback with that first pick. It's going to be fun. His name is Chris Fisher with Bucs Brief is the podcast, and you can follow him on Twitter. It's a must if you love the Buccaneers, Bucs Brief. Chris, thank you so much, and hope I can get you on again.
Absolutely, Mark. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.